and you're back on my absolute favorite hour of the week, right here, Real Sense Now, Florida Man Radio. It's that show where we talk about all things trending in the world of real estate, business, entrepreneurship, where we get superpower guests that are here to share their knowledge, share their wisdom, so that you can go out and learn how to invest in real estate, or better yet, create generational wealth for you and your family. That's what our show is all about. It's your host, Dawood, connoisseur of maybe the finer things in life, definitely a little bit in real estate, definitely a little bit of all the best in lifestyle and hospitality that you can imagine as well too. And today I'm actually doing my guest a favor of being, I hope, the super host while hosting him here in Orlando. My guest today is Bobby Puim, an old friend of mine, and I'm so glad that he actually made it to our studio today here in Orlando. He's visiting from my old hometown, Toronto, Canada. Bobby, thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thank you so much. And I will confirm for all of your listeners that you are the super host here in
we don't know yet. We'll see how the rest of the weekend
I promise. I mean, for anybody who can see me, watching the podcast today, backwards hat, right?
Yeah.
T-shirt here, a little bit of sun on my face. That's because you had us out all morning long doing all the fun things that you can do in Florida that you can't do in Toronto.
Hey, I know, and the weather's great.
It's incredible,
and we're gonna have a lot more fun.
Yes, sir.
And there may be some libations involved later in the day, and some great food.
We'll discuss that later
Okay,
in the third act of today's. Yeah,
there it is. So let's take it back. How do we know each other?
We met doing investor education with a company, the company that I traveled Canada with, just doing like how to invest in real estate, right? Teaching the mom and pop, the teacher, the engineer, how to get into real estate and invest in the same types of doors that you and I currently hold. You're a vendor on the other side of the transaction. So
I was the Florida guy.
Yeah, I was teaching.
By the way, that's become my moniker.
There you go, the Florida guy.
I'm the Florida guy.
So I would work with those people over the course of a weekend, and then farther into their journey. And when it was time to hand people off to the service providers, the vendors, for them to be able to fulfill upon their next goal, their next dream in real estate, that was you. So we connected really well because you and I have the same understanding of what real estate can be for people.
And I want to talk about that because I think it's really important for our listener to realize, I like what you said before we got started. What we do is essentially...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For lack of a better analogy, right? I think that real estate, to a degree, has become porn for people, like a type of it, right? People are constantly on their phone. There's always a new app that you can check out. There's always a new house down the street that's for sale, and you want to know what they did to it. You want to walk through it. You want to get inside of it.
And the information is accessible.
And it is all accessible. So people treat real estate in that same way. They're always kind of gawking at it. They're always monitoring from afar what's going on. And I find that very interesting about the real estate world as a whole, because you can, in fact, find everything that you need to know how to do it. But a good friend of ours used to tell us that real estate is simple. It's third grade math, but it's not easy to do. So we make it easy for everybody to see all of a sudden, then they have no idea where to go with it next.
So the funny thing about our friend that you're talking about, and I've actually used this metaphor many times. And when I tell you, you're going to smile because I know you know where I'm going with this. He taught me that real estate essentially is my other passion.
Yeah.
Enjoying incredible meals at awesome restaurants. So let's break it down. You come to a great restaurant, and the first thing that you want to do is obviously try the appetizer.
Always.
Make sure that the food is great and it's just a great kickstart to an incredible meal.
Yeah.
What is the appetizer when it comes to real estate?
That's a good question. I think everybody has a different journey to what that appetizer is. I'll give you an example of this. I think my appetizer was that I needed to get into real estate when I was living in the U.S., going to school, because it was the only thing that I could do.
Yeah.
I couldn't work because I was on a student visa. I couldn't do a lot of things that you would think would be obvious to do, right? Work in a bar when you're a student, or even work at the school. My school was so tiny, there was no student working programs.
Yep.
But real estate was that thing that I could get my beak wet on, right? Make a little bit of money. I could own real estate in that way. Other examples of this, I suppose, are like we do a lot of work with REC Canada up north, where it's people find themselves with a need for real estate all of a sudden. They've got a son or daughter going to university. They've never been into real estate before, and they want this transition into making sure that their children have a place to live in school, but also make sure that they don't lose any of their hard-earned money doing it. And all of a sudden that becomes their appetizer to the thing. And once they've finished what that is, it's full courses. They want a 10-course meal.
And
all
of
a
course,
sudden.
I mean, really the best way to look at it, especially the way my mentor said it, was that the appetizer is really the cash flow.
Yeah.
Everybody wants cash flow.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, in a lot of markets, and I know a lot of listeners are going to listen to this, and I know it's common in your market, but it's really foreign over here. People know about positive cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know about negative cash flow or net neutral. And when I use these terms, I really want you to understand that part of the education that we spend, Bobby and myself, educating our clients, we've done several projects together. We've worked together for probably, a decade?
Yeah,
more?
it's got to be a decade.
At least, yeah. And I think the interesting thing about it is the education piece is pivotal because there's a lot of people that are in the shadows, on the sidelines, trying to figure out what to do, and they really don't know what to do. Everybody wants this cash flow everybody keeps talking about, but in a lot of markets, it's not feasible. It's not possible. So when you're able to offer investors the education so that they can understand how to jump into new markets, that they don't have to come touch and feel the property, have to worry about collecting the rents, doing the renovations, doing whatever maintenance and repairs that are needed to do, all of a sudden, the world becomes your oyster.
Yeah.
There's so many other places in the country, whether it's in Canada, the United States, or even other parts of the world where you can invest in, you can enjoy, whether it's a lifestyle assets, like a short-term vacation rental, or even an investment property. Maybe it's a multifamily unit. Maybe it's a commercial building. Yeah. The list goes on and on and on and on.
I think you make such a good point about the cash flow. And I think it's the first thing that everybody looks for, right? When I said that that's what I needed to do in school to get by, it's because I could spend the extra $400 a month that I was making on a rental on Bud Lights and ramen noodles. That's what a student does, right? But I think that as you grow and you're
when was the last time you had Bud Light or ramen noodles, for that matter?
If I told you last week, would it be?
No,
right?
No.
40 years old. Yeah. No, I'm past it now. But a trip down nostalgia lane isn't such a big deal.
Not bad at all. So you know what?
But,
go ahead.
No, but it's very interesting to me that as you become more and more ingrained in what real estate can do for you, it isn't always about that cash flow dollar. Sure, it's the protectionary mechanism. It's the thing that you're going to need most at different points of your journey. But I think when you get to a certain point, you're also looking at equity-driven assets and 100%. Lifestyle choices and ways
and appreciation and so much more.
And ways to grow, right? That are outside of the potential tax burden that you're creating yourself in an income tax level by having nothing but cash flowing assets.
You're absolutely right. And it's weird because, look, I use this analogy all the time. Like if I was going to invest in a market like yours where you have net neutral or negative cash flow, to me, I always use this analogy. When I go to a buffet, which I never go to, I want to try everything. I want cash flow. I want appreciation. I want tax benefit. I want it all.
Yeah.
Right? So as we start to move into this 4-course meal, the main course is really mortgage pay down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So part of the education that we both share with our clients is how do you get into an asset? How do you vet if this is going to be a great investment or not?
Yeah.
What are some of the tips that you share with your investors when you're talking to them?
There's just so many. I think we always start with the real estate action plan. It's something that has blown up recently, kind of made REC Canada famous. It's making brokers and investors playbook more and more famous day in and day out.
And I want to talk about that as well.
We'll get there. But it's starting with that and then understanding exactly what somebody has the capability of doing. The example there is like if you have $100,000 sitting in the bank account and you invest it in stocks, you're buying 100K's worth of stocks. At real estate, we all know that is leverageable. So if you're spending that 100K, there's
400 or
400, even 500 in some cases. But it's that education tipping point, right? If I put too much of those dollars into that particular investment, did I just hinder myself from doing another one? Maybe. We don't know yet. Okay. If I don't use enough of the leverage component of this thing, I'm minimizing the easiest component to make money on that mortgage paydown. Correct. Even if nothing ever rose in price over time, right, I would still have that mortgage paydown. I'd still have that tenant paying me in order to get to that point. So it's like a forced savings account that you pay 100 grand for is worth 500K, and all you got to do is be patient.
Yeah,
It's
and,
incredible.
and real estate, no matter if it's trending upwardly or downwardly, real estate always trends upwardly over time. Look what happened in 2008. The market crashed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We definitely have recovered. The Florida market is probably one of the strongest in the country. There's people from all over the world that want to come and invest over here. And more importantly, it's affordable.
Yeah.
The median price is $388,000.
That's wild to me. What's the median price in Toronto, you think?
$1 million?
Yeah, they keep advertising that middle ground is somewhere in that $1 million to $1.2 million.
And you know
range.
what you can buy for $1 million here?
I would. You're gonna go show me.
I'm
gonna
show
later.
you a lot of stuff. So as we start continuing with this incredible meal, we start getting to dessert.
Yeah.
And the best part about dessert, when it comes to the world of real estate, is your tax benefits that come along with it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
I mean, it depends on which aspect of it you want to tackle first. I think my favorite dessert portion of this is that I can recycle all of the dollars that I put in a tax-free sense each and every time that I go to make an investment years down the line, because I think that the part that people miss, or maybe we always skip over, right, is that your investment performs the worst in year one.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
It's worst cash flow. It's the highest mortgage payments commonly. Yeah. It's all the worst debt servicing. Everything about it is the worst in year one. And 6 years later, right, in most cases, you realize that it's worth a little bit more. The mortgage is paid down to a point where you could access the dollars that you put back in again. And I can access those via refinance. And that is a non-taxable event for me. In Canada, I know that there's different mechanisms in the US to be able to do
1031 exchanges,
exactly right?
Which don't exist in many other countries in the world.
Exactly. So I can push a lot of these dollars forward in a tax-free sense for me to then do what exactly? In my mind, it's doubling the portfolio every 5, 6, 7 years, and then doing it again and again. I'm only 40 years old with the holdings that Laura and I have, who you met today, right? This makes it relatively simple to see like a tremendous future on the horizon.
You know what's crazy is you stand by the sidelines, you take the plunge, you're guided by the right people, the right team around you, whether it's the professional realtor that you're working with, whether it's the investment group that you're working with, whether it's the partners that you have, it doesn't matter. You get into real estate and you begin to realize, why didn't I do this before?
It's the number one regret that we hear from everybody. I should have done this sooner. I should have bought real estate 25 years ago.
And then what happens next?
One
property becomes
2.
And then?
And 2 becomes 4.
And then?
And then 8. And then we're actually looking at what sort of lifestyle you want to live, because you don't need to do much else in that regard.
And this is what the show is all about. To me, anyways.
Yeah.
You know, I've been pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into this business for close to 2 decades. I don't want to age myself. Handsome, young-looking fellow.
Started at 18 years old, right? He's now 35. Yes, whatever. Exactly. My math is horrible, right?
But the point of the matter is, I think, those who get into it and are guided by the right people, you can see them excel in a level where they're almost like grass hopping through this. And it's incredible how you go from a day before the investment, where you're valued at X dollars net worth, and then you buy the asset, and all of a sudden, if you can improve on it, add value, all of a sudden your net worth goes up by $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is based on your investment. Yeah. And you know what? We keep hearing about this all the time. And I know in the education classes that we have taught to our investors, our insiders, our students, there's so many ways to go and get into real estate without really having to spend a ton of money. I know a lot of people think that you need a lot of money to get involved with various investments, but the truth of the matter is you can have you could be the working partner, and you can have a financial partner that could literally front all the money for this. Our shows have covered everything from, building a fund so that you can create a real estate portfolio, to having, fix and flippers, or guys who are expert multifamily guys are finding deals all over the place. I mean, I had a guest who was, 20-something years old with 800 properties.
It's wild.
Like, it's wild. Yeah. You know what I mean? His choices basically have become the fork in the road for what generational wealth is going to look like for the rest of his family.
Mm-hmm.
And real estate can do that for you. Real estate has created more millionaires than probably any other asset class ever before in history.
Yeah.
What's a final thought that you can share for people who are listening, that are watching, that want to get involved in real estate and just don't know how to?
Yeah, connect yourself with the right power team of people, and always understand that you're investing where returns are best. Not in your backyard. Sometimes that's great, but invest where returns are best.
And if somebody wants to get a hold of you and just connect with you, have a question, what's the best way to reach you?
Community@brokersplaybook.com.
Say that again.
Community@brokersplaybook.com.
You're listening to Dawood Bedrosian right here on Real Sense Now. If you have a question for me, all you have to do is reach out to me on my website, realsensenow.com, or better yet, hit me up on any one of my social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, by just simply typing in my name, Dawood Bedrosian. You're going to see this handsome mug that shows up in the profile picture. It's me. There's nobody else. Give me a call, reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to guide you in your real estate journey so that you can create generational wealth for you and your family. Catch you after the break. And we're back, Real Sense Now, with your super host, Orlando's greatest host. Right, Bobby?
That's correct.
Am I showing you a good time?
The best time.
Welcome to Orlando. I'm so glad that you are a part of my show, because we've done a lot of really cool things for a lot of investors. You know, it's funny. I didn't know how to do traditional or conventional real estate for at least the first 8 years of doing it. I know it sounds weird, because I'm supposed to be like this real estate authority that can like guide you on what to do and how to invest and where to... And the truth of the matter is, in many ways, I feel like a bit of a fraud, actually. I'll tell you why. Because for the first 8 years, I didn't really know how to do an open house or put a sign in the ground or any of those kind of things that you do.
Yeah.
Because our approach to real estate was almost non-conventional.
It's not almost non-conventional. It's completely non-conventional. There's some statistics up in Canada, as an example here. It's something along the lines of 96% of all Canadians own 0 or 1, so they're effective primary residence, real estate properties, if you will. 3% own 2 more, so that's 99%, and 1% own more than 2. So we found ourselves servicing that 1 percentile of individuals who want to invest more and more in real estate. So it's irrelevant to us what an open house looks like.
And you know what?
Because
and it's true, because in many ways I felt like the Tony Robbins of real estate. Like I'd come on stage and I would tell them about all these incredible opportunities here in Florida, your tax benefits, replacement costs, how much cheaper it is, how much further the Canadian dollar could have gone. In many cases, people were buying properties with literally $0 because the cash flow that they were making was literally 5 times more than the borrowing power that they could use those funds when the exchange rate was at par. So
the good old days.
Oh, the good old days.
The good
exactly,
old days.
Right? And I think it's really interesting how, we both kind of took our first steps in real estate through education.
Yeah.
Through guiding people to make better investments. And that's how we have noticed on the receiving end ever since the 2008 crash, where if you were to, let's say, for example, have a scanning device from a bird's eye view looking onto any, for example, Canadian city, the average Canadian would be walking around with anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 in equity at that point in time, which now is probably, God knows, 500 or more, right? And those were the people that, out of all the foreign nationals that were investing in Florida, usually top the list. Canada comes in as the first, second, or third top foreign national investor. There's some politics involved. There's some interest rate concerns. There's some exchange rate concerns.
How much do you think the snow is also a concern?
Major.
And that's why
By the way,
comes here.
That's why I moved here in the first place. I came to visit Florida in January. Yeah. And I went to the beach and I saw palm trees, which I had not seen since I lived in Kuwait in the early 90s or 80s or whatever. So, that's exactly the reason why I'm here. And then you couple on top of that how cheap it is to buy property here. And you couple on top of that the cash flow, the lifestyle, the weather.
Mhm.
It's just a no-brainer.
But go back to what you were saying before, right? How we don't have a traditional view of what real estate is. You're going to take me on a ride later today. We're going to go look at a couple of neighborhoods that you think are investable, as the example goes. But what we won't talk about, not even one time, is if I would want to live there. It's irrelevant to me. We're always looking at what the potential value, the potential earning structure of this particular thing is going to be.
But I think the secret, on the other hand, is a lot of people on this side of the border, especially in Florida, have figured out exactly what investors want.
Yeah.
And they've started to kind of like beef up these communities with all the amenities that you can dream about.
Absolutely.
Gym facilities and amazing pools and lazy rivers and everything that you can ever imagine wanting to do on a vacation, while maybe spending 1 or 2 more days in the community rather than being at the park spending thousands of dollars.
My man, that's just savvy business, isn't it? Aren't you just taking from the boutique hotel model? Not everybody wants to stay at a JW Marriott. They're beautiful, they're great, whatever. Right? But you want to stay in a boutique place for the reasons that you find, to stay at a boutique hotel.
Well,
and then it's going to trickle down to a short-term rental that provides you similar things of that 100%. Nature. So if we're going to continue to trickle those amazing ideas down from that corporate level to the mom and pop investor, providing amenities and value to somebody coming in from another country like Canada, it's exactly the model. Like, you're literally just plucking something that has been known to work and placing it into the hands of somebody who has the dollars to be able to execute upon it. It's wonderful.
So why is Florida still appealing in spite of higher interest rates, the exchange rate where it's at? Why is Florida still sexy for a lot of foreign nationals, such as Canadians, to come and invest in? Because they're amongst the top 3 investor groups that are investing in Florida.
It's a hard question to answer. I think everybody finds a little bit different value in what it is. I think your income tax structure in Florida is pretty incredible comparatively to everything that we have to put up with in Canada. The weather is a huge factor here. But I also think that it extends the lifetime of what an investment is going to do, being in such a climate as this. It's the example here is that, like, I have an Airbnb in Toronto. Okay, very specific rules, very under your thumb, and we are burdened by the fact that there are no concerts between October and April that are cool to go to, that are outside at the amphitheater, as an example. The Jays are only on then, right? Nobody's coming into the city of Toronto for 3 nights in a row to see the Leafs play. It just doesn't work that way. But here, there's always something to do. Always.
I always say, if the mouse can make it, so can you.
There it is.
And Mickey Mouse is not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. Golfing year round. I used to live in Houston, and people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that you would golf in January, but not in August and July, or July and August. That's the order they come in, right? But the point there would be, like, it's simply too hot. You're going to find other things to do. Exactly. But that's a 10-month year, where for real in Canada, it's a 6-month year. Yeah. Every single person I talk to is fed up with Canada by the middle of November.
But you know what? I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer, but the truth of the matter is this, and I love also being Canadian as much as I love being an American.
Yeah.
I'm going to state that out to the world so that everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But things have changed since COVID.
Absolutely.
And it's not the same place.
It isn't.
And you know what the number one trend that I'm noticing?
What's
more
that?
Than more and more people wanting to invest here? So many more people are asking me to connect them with immigration lawyers to actually relocate here and move here permanently.
That's such an interesting thing. I think that there's an ebb and flow to everything, and not to get too political, but I think we see.
Oh, we can get political.
Oh, very political, very, very. Right? To be honest with you, I don't have much of a political opinion. I don't like the way that our country is trending in most cases. I'm the proudest Canadian you'll ever meet, ever. I love being Canadian. But it doesn't do anything for my business. It doesn't do anything for the growth that I want to see in my portfolio for generational wealth. Here, it feels very much as though I can do just about whatever I want on the right side of the law. Let's make that clear, in order to get it to exactly where I believe that I can get with my portfolio, my dreams, my desires, all the things. So there's this cumbersome feeling being a Canadian sometimes.
Let's talk about investors wanting to move here. How are you guiding them through this process? What are you sharing with them? What's useful information for investors, whether they're American, Canadian, European, to want to look at when they're looking at an investment.
Yeah.
Or an investment in Florida more specifically.
Well, like for all your listenership, I actually only do one thing, right? I just invite them to meet Dawood, who's going to put them out, the best host in
Yeah, but
Orlando.
before they come to
before,
me.
okay, I got it, right? No, it's real estate investing is a fundamentally simple thing to be able to do. You have to understand exactly what your potential income streams are, all of the little things that are going to come in from the expense component of this thing, and then what you are allowed and not allowed to do. It's simple education. Like I can't say it enough. It's how we met. It's what we continue to talk about to this day. But simply educating somebody, making sure that they understand what they're about to undertake, right? And then making that introduction to Dawood. That's the answer.
You know what's crazy is I think you kind of tapped on something that I wasn't able to crystallize till literally this very moment. I know I've said iterations of this in the past. The truth of the matter is my whole business changed when one thing happened. I went from being a real estate person, advisor, expert, agent, whatever you want to call it, to becoming an educator.
There it is.
And honestly, the minute you become an educator, the value is purely relying on what the investor, what the student, what the person who's receiving this information is actually getting. It's not about a sale.
No.
It's not about any end goal other than educating them to the fullest. And you know what I've come to realize? Even if they don't pursue that investment, they want to send all of their friends, all of the people that they love to you because they just appreciate the wisdom that was imparted to them.
The reason that I work at REC Canada, like outside of the fact that our leadership group is incredible, right? Jazz, Simeon, Laura, everybody.
By the way,
shout outs.
Second largest team or first largest team in the country?
We're the largest team in the country. We're number 3 in the 2 measurable metrics in real estate in all of Canada. So that's gross commission income, which is simply a proxy, like done by proxy of being the number 3 team in gross volume is the answer. So we do the 3rd most deals in all of the country with a team now of 35 agents.
So there's a reason why I brought you on the show, because the wisdom that you're giving us is exactly what investors or people who want to get into this business can actually learn, can sink their teeth in and actually take massive action.
And I think that I work there because I'm given the opportunity to educate the agent as a whole. I think that TREB, maybe it was Korea, so that's the Toronto Real Estate Board and the Canadian Real Estate Association, just put out a quick study that named the realtor the most important person in the transaction. They gave them weighted rankings. 35% of everything that happens in the transaction is spearheaded by the realtor themselves. So when you've got an educated realtor who can continually then push that education down the line to the individual, there's this element of reciprocity that comes with it. And I think that because I'm then blessed enough to have learned it on the investor side of these things, and now I'm on the inside, teaching those agents all of the things that we've learned over the last 15 years doing this type of thing together, it's the trickle-down effect is truly incredible. You've got better realtors, you've got better investors by proxy to that. You've got more business flowing through than you know what to do with all of a sudden because of the reciprocity that comes from this. And since it was never about the transaction in the beginning, like the transactions, the volume to become the number 3 team in all of Canada is the benefit for doing the right thing from the beginning.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, you've hit the nail on so many really great touch points here. One of the things that I want to share is we all are aware of all these incredible changes that are happening in our industry with NAR, decoupling the commissions, or now called compensation or concession, whatever you want to call it. And we really don't know what's going to happen. The narrative is it's business as usual until we're told what to do. But I think you hit the nail on the head. A realtor has several hundred, if not 1,000 touch points that they're doing in terms of orchestrating this puppet show in the background.
Yeah.
While making sure that all things are aligning so that this smooth transaction can occur between a buyer and a seller. Today, it's even more important because I have a feeling you guys are our neighbors upstairs. The party's going on downstairs. You guys are hearing all the noise. Yeah? I think it's going to happen. I think it's eventually going to come to Canada as well too. And the point of the matter is, I think we need to educate our buyers and sellers. And education seems to be the underlying thread of this whole conversation, so that they can be well-versed, make better decisions, and go from there. Don't worry about who's paying who and what's going on.
I'm telling you right now that nobody would question the value of what they would be paying out in that regard if that individual realtor had done the job that we are teaching them to do. If they are educating, if they are coordinating a transaction, if they are a trusted consultant and not a realtor, all of a sudden that kind of washes away. There's always going to be the buyer-seller conundrum. I always bought for too much. I always sold for too little, always.
Well, that's what they say. The buyer never wants to pay too much and the seller never wants to ever really give you a
And
deal,
you are always
right?
going to feel that way. But if you were educated into why not feeling that way made sense, I truly believe that this entire thing would go away.
I really think this is probably one of the greatest changes that's going to happen to our industry, because it's going to weed out all of the people that come in when the market is hot. And better yet, going to turn realtors or real estate agents into even greater professionals, adding more value to buyers and sellers so that they can go on with new chapters in their life and once again create generational wealth for their families. Bobby, you're not going anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to be talking a lot more about all the cool stuff happening in your life. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Reach me at community@brokersplaybook.com. That is community@brokersplaybook.com.
You don't have to go slower, by the way. And of course, if you have a real estate question for me, just hit me up on my website, realsensenow.com, or better yet, just hit me up directly on any one of my social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Who uses Facebook anymore? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah, my mom too.
There you go.
But I think my dad calls it Bookface or something. Anyways, we'll catch you after the break. It's your host, Dawood, and you're listening to Real Sense Now. And we're back. Favorite hour of the week, right here, Real Sense Now. Actually, favorite hour ever, because today I have a special guest. His name is Bobby Puim. I like to call him Bobby Puim, because we have so much fun together. This has actually been one of the most fun episodes that I've done in a really, really, really long time. Maybe the funnest ever.
Oh, that's
like
high.
The bestest, mostest ever.
That's a high bar. I like that.
I love it because it's casual and we're having a good time.
Why do it if we're not going to have a good time?
Let's not do it at all.
Yeah.
You know what?
Right?
Every guest that's going to come on after this week needs to bring it, or I'm quitting.
The bar is set.
That's it.
Good luck, everybody else.
Hey, there may not be a Real Sense Now after this week. So listen, everybody wants to be the number one guy in their business. I like to call you the Charlie Munger. You're the best number two guy anybody can ever dream about having.
Well, you and I talk about this so often. You know who my favorite guy in the world is?
Who?
Is Steve Ballmer.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Who knows who Steve Ballmer is?
No, not all the hands, not all at once. Right? He now owns the LA Clippers, but you know where he came from, right?
Microsoft.
Yeah. And he was sitting in the background all that time. He became the CEO eventually, right? And then cashed out and bought the Clips. And I mean, the Clippers kind of suck. Go Raptors, just as a throw out here.
But their arena's so gorgeous.
He's just a brilliant guy who made a living out of becoming an entrepreneur. There's a difference. And
what is the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur?
I'm in such a blessed place. Simeon and I have got Broker's Playbook rolling at the moment, and I liken it to this. Simeon, entrepreneur, takes a lot of the risk, takes a lot of the financial risk, and then finds a trusted individual, such as myself, to be able to come in and handle all of the operational things to make sure that his goals are met as well. It's not as if I don't have my own goals. Don't get me wrong. Like I love being a relatively savvy business mind. I love being able to execute is really what the crux of the matter is. But I don't have to take many risks, right?
But the risks that you take are the most calculated risks anybody needs to take. And for our listeners, we're going to share them all with you today.
All of them in the next 6 minutes.
In the next 6.5 minutes, we're going to figure this all out. And the truth of the matter is, every successful business is really spearheaded by systems.
I want to believe it's built off of the backs of two things: a solid foundation in systems, and then a solid team in order to execute
100%
with those two things. I believe that we're lucky. I believe that we've hit a bit of magic, to be fair, with Broker's Playbook, Investor's Playbook.
So what is Broker's Playbook, Investor?
Broker's Playbook started in the middle of the pandemic up in Canada, which actually lasted 3.5 years.
By the way, our pandemic lasted 6 weeks.
Yeah,
so
ours
these
was
poor
like
guys were
3
like,
years locked
yeah,
down.
locked up like little rab rats.
Lab rats, yeah. But we just started to. Do you remember Clubhouse? This is a real thing. Remember Clubhouse?
Yeah, I do. Does anybody even go on Clubhouse?
I don't know anymore,
Yeah,
but
I think so. I was on it all the time.
We were going into rooms. We were talking. People really liked the things that we had to say. All of a sudden, we had a couple thousand people jumping into the room once every couple of days that we were going in. So we started a podcast, and that's where Broker's Playbook is sort of known for being at the moment, or at least the last little while. But it was about being loud about making the realtor community a better place to be. More education, more transparency, all of the things that everybody wants it to be, but kind of knows that maybe it isn't in most cases, some cases, right? But it evolved. Everybody then wanted to join us with the REC Canada team. I just want to be on your team. And I don't know if you run into this problem, but I think what a lot of people are asking for when they want to join the team, it's two things. I want leads. They're asking you for deals. Okay. And I want to be on your team actually means I want all of your knowledge so that I can do whatever I want
to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay? But we found ourselves being not scalable in that regard. Like, how are you going to bring on 150 people all at once because they say, I want to be on your team? It's impossible. The system will break. And regardless of how good it is, it wasn't made for that number of people. So with Broker's Playbook, what we did is sort of extended, almost, I don't want to say courtesy, it's not the right word, but like extended the ability that we had to do any one type of deal, use a pre-construction because it's an inventoried investment opportunity. By inventoried, I mean it's literally written in a Google sheet somewhere from a developer. I know exactly what I can sell and when I can sell it.
And especially in markets like yours where there's towers coming up all over the place where, you're basically like capitalizing on an opportunity to be in the specific building because of the area, the subway, the this, the that, whatever the selling factors or the drivers are for that investment.
We know them. Prices are fixed to a pretty strong degree. There's incentives that make it worth your while. And there's no debt revolving around it, right? You don't have to close on this thing for 3, 4, 7 years.
Yeah. Depending on where.
Depending upon what the building
it's funny
type
because
is.
we can build all year round and a lot of people are not buying condos here, but buying single family homes.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 8 months.
And what we're talking about in that regard is the ability to still get in and find yourself next to near cash flow. It's when we're doing these investments in Canada, we need that 4, 5, 6 years because of the price point that we find themselves in.
Because they naturally appreciate, right?
And they naturally appreciate without you having to actually own them.
And the appreciation is insane in that.
Can be. Average price appreciation in Toronto, where we're from, is 7.8% over the last decade. That's with 3 down years and 1 crazy up year. Don't get me wrong.
Whereas, for example, we during COVID saw probably appreciation compounded, well over 30%.
See, those are those crazy years, and ask me if I think that it's sustainable, and I'm going to tell you it isn't. Yeah, right. But
the anomaly is this.
Yeah,
we are Florida. It is Texas. It's 2 of the hottest states that people want to come and invest in, and there's people moving at
record rates. It's crazy. So what we did with Broker's Playbook in this regard is simply took all of those, packaged them up as almost a white label for other agents to access, and allowed them to do deals of that nature. So we handle all the paperwork. We handle the builder, developer, the marketing agency relationship. They handle their client. We never want to speak to your client. It's never our client.
I love that.
You are our client. And it's caught enough traction to have done 250 deals over the last 18 months.
I love it.
All of this on what we call a common referral. So it's 25% of the total commission, commonly in the 4% range, to Broker's Playbook for having done all of that, the actual heavy lifting. You for bringing your client and making sure that they got something that A, they didn't know where to go to get it in the first place, right?
Or had access to.
Or B, had access to, exactly. That we did, right? So that extended access allowed for the agent to do a deal that they normally wouldn't do, the investor to do a deal that is going to perform really well, and us to continue to add to our deal count over time.
And actually even provide them with entry-level access to pricing that by the time they get to it, they'll never be able to get that kind of pricing.
Well said. Well said.
Okay, let's shift gears.
Yeah.
We talked about Broker's Playbook. What is Investor Playbook?
Well, it's an extension of that. It's launched, soft launch up in Canada. It's coming to the US relatively quickly. You and I share a CRM in real estate, like with the real estate teams, and we're hopeful to have a lot of these metrics flowing inwardly into the CRMs so that agents can
and that's how we actually work together.
Exactly.
Like I give you guys projects to kind of like feed to your investors, and in return we get a ton of foreign nationals that actually want to invest in our market.
Yep. But now with Investors Playbook, imagine going to a site where you could see each one of those individualized units, that inventory that we were talking about before, and having a pro forma module sitting in the background that runs live time. If you purchased it for X price and you rented it for Y, what should your return be? There's all sorts of these data feeds out right now that will do average rents in an area, average price points in an area. There's also ones that will do active appreciation modeling for future use. And I think it takes a unique mind to be able to understand how to connect those dots. And that's where guys like Simeon and yourself and Jazzy and myself to a degree come in, where we've been educated in real estate.
The greatest degree.
The greatest. Yeah.
The greatest degree.
But it's how do you take all of those data points that the average consumer who wants to be an investor doesn't know either where to find them, how to gather them, how to interpret them, and put them all into one place so that you can see exactly how that thing is going to perform. That's what Investors Playbook is. So we're in the middle of adding more than 10,000 units in Canada, with another 15,000 to come in the US in certain spots, Florida being one of them. We really like South Carolina, New York, Texas for a lot of these same reasons: warm climates, right? The right governmental, attitudes towards real estate investing. And we're just really excited about where it can go. To be fair, all of this stuff is consumable right through the website as well. You can click to buy now because of the way that these things are going. So I want to believe that we're the first in the world to come up with that. And we've also got connections in like the Dominican Republic, Dubai. So it's more of a global platform than I ever imagined it would be. But
and I'm going to add a lot more to that after the show is done. Listen, I hate to say this to you. You're not aware of what's going to happen. But for my listeners out there, if anybody knows anybody that has a cloning device, I said it right, cloning device.
Cloning, yeah.
I need you to know I'm keeping a version of you with me here in Florida because I need you with me all the time. It's been a pleasure having you as my guest. I'm immensely grateful. I feel like we could go on for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. You're a walking encyclopedia, a wealth of information. Thank you for coming to do my show.
Dawood, please, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun to be able to do. I'm going to fly down once a week.
Let's do it.
Just don't tell my wife.
Okay, I won't. And you'll be my co-host on the show.
There you go, the co-host, exactly.
And of course, we're wrapping up the show. Dawood Bedrosian, the hostess with the mostest, your super host here in Orlando, your go-to realtor, your favorite realtor for everything that you need to ask or learn about in the Orlando market. Thank you for joining Real Sense Now. We'll catch you every Saturday from 11 to 12 right here on Real Sense Now. Thanks for joining.